Around 1988, my parents bought me a Nintendo Entertainment System, and it came with a game in a box, Super Mario Bros. It was the first game I had ever played, and it opened up an entirely new world for me. Gaming. More specifically, platformers. Games where you generally scroll across the screen avoiding pits, or climb higher using, you guessed it, platforms. I was obsessed. I couldn't get enough of them. I wanted to play even more of them. Super Mario 2, Super Mario 3, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, Donkey Kong Country, Mega Man, the list goes on. As many as my parents would buy. I would search for every secret, run them as fast as I could, exploit every loophole. If you're looking to get the most bang for your buck, at $59.99 in 1990, you had to go with a platformer. It was the gateway to the utter borderline obsession I have with video games and video game development. There is another funny thing that I have a teensy bit of an obsession over. Ninjas. Back then, I was all about ninjas. I was all about the toy ninja weapons. Shurikens, kunais, sais, katanas, those foam nunchucks I kept hitting myself in the face with, you name it, I had it. And it extended to video games, more specifically to beat 'em ups. If there was a ninja character to pick, that was my guy. Only the real ones are gonna get that reference. I didn't even like Teenage Mutant Turtles until I saw them doing ninja stuff. So when I found out that they were platformers that were ninja themed, I had to play them. Enter the classic Ninja Gaiden series. It wasn't just a platformer, it wasn't just ninja theme, it was really hard, man. I was too green as a kid to beat this game. I tried, man. I tried and failed a lot. Then suddenly I came into possession of a Sega Genesis, and it came with another ninja platformer, Shinobi 3 Return of the Ninja Master, and that was a little different. It was impressive looking for its time. I played that thing like crazy, so you can imagine when I heard that Ninja Gaiden was getting a sequel. Not to be confused with Ninja Gaiden 4, which is looking very good in its own right, but a 2D side-scrolling platformer in the image of the original trilogy. How could I not play? And a funny thing happened. As I was playing the demo of Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, I saw a release trailer for Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I was in complete disbelief. 3 weeks apart, two of the most recognizable names in action platformers were coming out with revival titles in a genre they left vacant for decades. How often does that happen? This is such an interesting coincidence that I just had to make this video. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, two ninja-themed platformers released in the same month based on two popular IPs, each releasing at the same time basically. Coincidence? I think so. So let's talk about it. Hey, my name is John. I'm just a nobody on the internet. We are the nobodies of gaming, and I want to talk about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Spoilers for both of these games, and pretty much anything else I talk about, it's going to be all spoilers from here on out. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound released on July 31st, 2025, and it happened to coincide with a little vacation I took. Now, I had no intention of making a video about a game that is practically a guilty pleasure of mine. I took the game with me on my Steam Deck and I played the heck out of it while waiting on some delayed flights. Excellent game, and I was impressed at how good the narrative turned out to be. Now don't get me wrong, it's not some sprawling saga or anything like that, but I was thoroughly entertained and I was even a little bit invested. I loved it. Serious ninja action. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. Right around the last few hours of my first playthrough of Ragebound, I saw an ad on Steam for Shinobi Art of Vengeance, and it was scheduled to drop on August 29th. It gave me immediate pause. And when I tried the demo before release, I was greeted with one of the most gorgeous 2D side-scrollers I had ever seen, and a combat system with a lot of possibilities. Then I looked into the developers. For Ragebound, the Game Kitchen is a little studio out of Sevilla, Spain, that was responsible for a little indie hit called Blasphemous and its sequel Blasphemous 2. Both very good action platformers with soul-like sensibilities and very dark and gritty themes. And when you play Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, you can really pick up all the meticulous details that is a signature of their prior work. Their publisher, Tomoe, are awesome too and are responsible for publishing another favorite ninja-themed game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredders Revenge. Also, sort of a revival of an older IP. Did I mention that I love ninja-themed games? And then there's Lizard Cube. Now these guys have been making a name for themselves with their gorgeous art and animation. An indie studio out of Paris, France, Lizard Cube are the team that put out Streets of Rage 4, a sequel to the long dormant beat-em-up series that Sega put out in the 90s. And part 2 is literally the game I played most for Sega Genesis. Honestly, I love the fighting in Streets of Rage 2, but the soundtrack goes hard. Two revivals of two side-scrolling IPs, and it's not even my birthday. It's funny, you would think that Ragebound and Shinobi would turn out to be very similar. After about 24-25 hours each, I 100% both games. What I found were two games that, while on paper sound the same, turn out to be very different in subtle ways, and at first glance, most reviewers would miss this. I won't bury the lead. These games were both really good games, and both for every hour I spent with them. You jump, you move through stages, you fight demons and evil ninjas, you got secret areas to unlock, and you have an evil demon to stop from taking over the world. Same game, right? Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengeance couldn't be more different from each other. This isn't going to be some apples versus oranges kind of comparison. Two studios put out two different visions for a particular style of game, and how often do you get a chance to take two releases in the same genre and themes and compare them side by side? This kind of crazy coincidence is what gets a nerd like me talking for hours. This video is probably not going to be that long. Like and subscribe if you're into nerds talking about ninja games. I am going to break these two games down, and we're going to keep it to about 3 criteria. Gameplay, presentation, narrative. By the time we're finished, you guys are going to see how very, very different these two great games are, and that both are worth your time and worth buying. Even Steam and Lizard Cube and the Game Kitchen all thought so. They started selling the game as a combo pack within a week of Shinobi's release, and I have never seen two separate, unrelated developers do that. Someone must have just said, hey, why don't we just, instead of competing head to head, why don't we call the other guys, offer a combo discount for both games, and everybody wins, right? Right? Come on, who doesn't like a good deal? Two great games, just save a little cash, everybody wins! Okay, enough selling these games to you. Let's get started. I want to start with the prettiest of these two children, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, and oh my giddy aunt, this game is one of the most beautiful looking games I've seen this year, maybe ever in this genre. From the moment you start the first scene, the game just slaps like a drunken stepdad. The leaves floating gently in the breeze in the foreground, the gorgeous painted and vibrant backgrounds, and the details on Joe Musashi and his wife Naoko look stunning in motion. Watching Joe himself run looks freaking awesome, especially when you're watching all the elements working together to create what looks like a gorgeous painting in motion. The dialogue in the game is voice acted and has some really good looking stills that almost look perfect for the dialogue being presented. It elevates the total presentation for the narrative, which I will cover separately later. The only exception is that the protagonist Joe Musashi is silent. Well, not silent, but he grunts and somehow everyone seems to understand what he's saying, friends and enemies alike. Not a fan of this, but it doesn't diminish the overall presentation. The crown jewel of this game is the way the combat looks. Peak ninja action. The effects and sounds of the combat absolutely beg for you to engage with it. It makes you want to keep fighting to see how crazy your combos get. The visuals of Joe Musashi using his sword is visual poetry. I will talk about the combat more in the gameplay section, but I want to emphasize how gorgeous the visuals get as you upgrade your combat kit. The way Joe powers up before doing certain nippos looks really cool. Man, those power-up animations look damn good. Shinobi's combat is definitely the main attraction. The cutscenes are also pretty good and allow you to keep track of the narrative as it moves along every 3 stages or so. There is something about the stages that I really want to mention in Shinobi Art of Vengeance. If the game has a weakness, it's definitely the design of the stages. Now don't get me wrong, it's not outright terrible or anything. Some of the stages feel kind of generic in their overall design. They do the job and mostly don't feel too terrible. After spending some time in some of the stages, you can tell that some of them received a little more care than others. When you're exploring and fighting in them, they're mostly serving as a decent set piece for the narrative and for the very light Metroidvania mechanics. Overall, in the face of such beautiful animation, the actual stages themselves are a bit of a letdown. I want to talk about the stages in Shinobi a little more, but we're going to need to talk about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound to really make the point, so let's swap over to it now. In contrast to Shinobi, Ragebound has animation and art design that is far more subdued. Instead of flashy and bright animation, the Game Kitchen wanted to keep Ragebound more in line with their prior game Blasphemous, and the color is a little duller, more pixelated, but very detailed. All of the animation serves to enhance the narrative as much as possible. The backgrounds are always trying to tell a story in Ragebound. While Shinobi stages are pretty, they don't exactly tell a story. In Ragebound, every stage is both functional to the gameplay and looks like a place the narrative says you're in. The pixel art really stands out and the action looks good and crisp despite the difference in appearance. The combat is simpler, with the attacks being more fast and precise. Everything you interact with is pixel accurate, which is to the benefit of the art style. Because of how detailed the sprites are, every corner of this game stands out. The cutscenes, the menus, Muramasa's shop, lots of deliberate choices to match everything with the narrative, and it isn't surprising in the least. Now, Shinobi's art does a good job of depicting its story, but looking at the spaces you fight in these stages, I would say that the art design was meant to look great more than it was meant to help with the storytelling. To me, this is what brings it down a notch. Both of these games look really good, but for really different reasons. Neither of them fails to impress. Even the soundtracks for both games freaking slap. The difference between both games gets even more pronounced in the gameplay, which is what we're going to compare next. The most distinguishing characteristic about both Shinobi Art of Vengeance and Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is not necessarily what you're going to do for 10 to 20 hours, it's how you do it. I want to focus on Ragebound because what that game is going to ask from you is very different than what Shinobi wants. From the opening training level in the training dojo to the secret levels to the final boss, Ragebound is going to ask you for precision. The game is designed to be a fast-paced puzzle to solve. You traverse through the level and you'll be fighting demons, evil ninjas, corrupt soldiers, and the terrain itself, sometimes all of the above at the same time. Shinobi, on the other hand, wants you to figure out how to kill all your enemies in the slickest, flashiest way possible. Every level is just another opportunity to ambush enemies, open hallways so you can kill enemies that are blocking your path. It's not exactly complicated, but when the moves look this good, the combos are this fluid, does it need to be complex? Ragebound, however, wants to make use of your brain, your reflexes, and the uncontrollable urge to make the bar go up at the end of the stage. And that's not all either, because Ragebound has the very clever idea to add a second protagonist. So it's not just Kenji Mozu, the disciple of the Ryu Hayabusa, the hero of the original series. There's also Komori from the Black Spider Clan, a caked up badass ninja chick. Who doesn't love a caked up badass ninja chick? And while that alone will make me a fan of this idea, the mechanics they use to make these two work together is genius. So to touch upon the narrative of Ragebound a little bit, Kenji is lured into a trap along with Komori, and in a desperate attempt to avoid permanent retirement as ninjas, they fuse together into one body with Kenji in the driver's seat, Komori living rent-free in his head, and the bonus of both of their powers, which really just translates into using both your sword and kunai. And while that would be where most developers stop, the Game Kitchen takes it a step further and has entire sections where Komori slides into the demon dimension and uses the new terrain to solve puzzles and get past obstacles. They turn out to be some of the very best platforming this game has to offer, and the fact that it goes so well with the story is just chef's kiss. Essentially, every mechanic in Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is designed to mix combat and platforming and push the narrative forward. If you ask me to compare which of these two games is the more complete package, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is it. On top of the drop-dead sexy visuals and the excellent combat, Shinobi has secrets on every level that you can find through exploration, and some things you can't find until you unlock certain abilities, hence the Metroidvania thing. Now, people have been saying that it has Metroidvania mechanics where you gotta get new abilities and then use those abilities to backtrack and reach places you couldn't go before. This game is not exactly that. I mean, it has it, but very sparingly so. If you're into those kinds of mechanics, don't listen to the reviewers that say that, because they're wrong in this case. Now, Ragebound doesn't have any sort of backtracking mechanics. All the levels are their own little puzzle boxes that let you find skulls and gold beetles, that let you buy different talismans to use in the legendary Muramasa store. On top of the bonuses you get from the talismans, you can also special order less peace and more problems in exchange for the free rank at the end of the stages. What I mean is, you can make the game harder if you want. You gotta love a game that gives you options, even when the option is more pain. One could argue that the secret levels are a form of backtracking, because what you experience is a remix of a prior level that you've already finished with more collectibles and more complicated level designs to conquer. So once you're done skipping, slicing, and ninjaing through levels, there's usually a boss fight to deal with, and you gotta get good and fight very large mobile monsters in very small spaces. Ragebound does not exactly give a ton of options for offense against enemies, because most will just die with one supercharged slash or two regular slashes. Because of the boss fights, it's more of a test of reflexes and memorization and patience. They're true boss fights. After slicing them 100 times, they usually dramatically disintegrate, which is obviously really cool. The fighting in Shinobi's pretty engaging, of course, but when it comes to the bosses, all I gotta say is that all that power is available to you, and it kinda makes these fights a cakewalk. Joe Musashi is so powerful, he is near godlike in the hands of an experienced gamer. And after defeating every boss in the game, there was only one boss in Shinobi that actually gave me any real challenge. It was a secret boss, which is a pain in the ass to unlock. His name is Shadow Master, which is a riff on the older Shinobi titles. He's like a cyber ninja version of Joe Musashi, which is kind of cool conceptually, but really was a boss version of your own kit. And you're really powerful, and you have a lot of sick moves. It was just kind of lame in comparison though. Like, you have the better moves by far. Super tough to beat, but he was kind of lame. There's one last thing about the bosses I absolutely love: when you are blessed enough to execute them properly. The cutscene was epic ninja shit. Also, extra thing about the main bosses, remember when I said Joe Musashi doesn't say a word in this game? I lied. he says one word. Here it is.
Come on, everyone. It's time for the big finish.
Die. Deeply satisfying. Ragebound's final boss is as cliche as it gets, the evil Demon King trying to invade our reality, and as a boss, he's actually not too tough. It was just exciting enough to be a good conclusion. What I didn't know on my first playthrough is that there were going to be multiple endings and a secret boss rush. Every boss you played against with only half your kit available to you because now Kenji and Komori are split by the end of the game. Good story reason for it, and I'll get into that a little later, but I want to wrap up this gameplay section. Shinobi has that real sexy crazy combat that keeps you wanting to fight for hours. Ninja Gaiden has that fast-paced action that tests your reflexes and problem-solving skills all at the same time, while keeping you pretty hooked with its story. Perfect segue into the narrative section of this video. So stop me if you've heard this one before. Demons invade the village of the ninja protagonist, destroy the village, and then go off to destroy the world since they think their only threat's been taken care of. Then, as the ninja protagonist, you go on a quest to stop the demons from taking over the world. Well, have you heard it before? Did that story sound good the last time you heard it? Good, because you're going to hear it 2 more times. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound starts with Kenji Mozu being trained by the original hero of Ninja Gaiden, Ryu Hayabusa. After beating the training in the dojo and losing the duel to the master himself, multiple times I tried to beat him in this duel and you really couldn't. And even when you do win, he still gives you the Izuna drop and kicks your butt, so there's no point in trying. He's the GOAT, man. The demons begin attacking the village and the other unseen members of the Hayabusa clan while burning the village down. Ryu finds out his dad died and has to go to America and do his own thing. Go play the original 1988 Ninja Gaiden to see what he was up to. You chase some demons up to the summit of Mount Fuji, and on the way you run into Master Muramasa, cool as fuck blacksmith. He'll sell you all kinds of stuff to help you. Not long after you reach the summit and you run into the CIA. That's not weird, right? The agent tells you someone's trying to let loose the Demon King. You mosey on over to the portal that's not sealed and you run in because that's what you do with open portals, right? You fight the flying archdemon and he promptly explodes, leaving you on death's door. You look up and to your surprise, you see an evil ninja chick and she's sort of stuck to the wall like she was caught in a trap too. Then she tells you the story of how she ended up here. The evil Enacorp had begun a campaign to take over the world, and because Joe Musashi and the Ouroboros clan don't have a TV, Wi-Fi, or a cell phone, they were completely caught unaware that the world was burning. So on a beautiful morning, as Joe says goodbye to his pregnant wife and runs off with his protege Tomoe, they're confronted by a ninja who ushers in their demise, and soon the tanks and jets and helicopters show up to destroy the Ouroboros clan. And of course, you make your way to the village, getting a tutorial along the way. You ultimately meet your main villain, Rusei, who came personally to make sure the Ouroboros clan was destroyed, but was way too busy to finish Joe Musashi himself. You destroy the demon trying to stop you, and that's the beginning of a 20-hour-long quest to exact vengeance on Rusei for the death of your clan. So save a couple of differences, we got 2 very similar stories here. We got all the cliches, the innocent and pure maiden, you got your rookie proteges, you got an evil and corrupt paramilitary using demons, you got your demon kings trying to take over or destroy the world, and more. But despite the similarities and the cliches and the overlaps, these 2 stories differ in one important way: execution. And I don't mean the sick executions that Joe Musashi does. Damn, son! Damn! No, I mean how each of the stories are told. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is not exactly rising to the heights of an epic narrative, but it does have a cohesive story, great characterization, clear motivations, and I mean even the demons exhibit personalities, and the world of Ninja Gaiden is sort of like weirdly grounded and gritty. Komori's addition to Kenji when they're forced to fuse together sort of create like a cute buddy cop dynamic between the 2 of them. They actually talk, unlike Joe Musashi, the freaking enigma that he is. Zero emotional range. You had the CIA acting as an oppositional third party that's trying to use the demons to make grotesque but powerful super soldiers. The Demon King had a plan. The heroes get thwarted, and when they think they've won because of that, at the end of the story, Kenji and Komori, after spending the entire time fused together, making each other more powerful, they're forced to split, and eventually Kenji and Komori have to choose who stays in the demon realm to hold off the Demon King as they close the gate. I mean, it was pretty damn good. I felt Kenji and Komori develop a bond despite being from opposing ninja clans. I went back to unlock the secret ending, and it turns out it's more like a fun epilogue that lets you do a boss rush through all the bosses. Now, you get to do it with just one of the characters, which turns the whole thing into a pain in the ass after getting used to having both power sets. I did it. I kind of love the love-hate feeling from it, you know. I want to see the ending, but you also don't want to beat the bosses with such paltry combat kits. It was fine, you know? It was fine. Now, Shinobi doesn't really do story progression at a decent pace. Some of the zones have about 3 levels you have to partially complete before the story begins to move forward. Again, the narrative tells you what Joe is doing, but it feels a little thin. Even with the cutscenes that give you a little exposition, it just doesn't feel like much is actually happening. While Ninja Gaiden makes you feel like events are moving forward with every level, Shinobi's world feels frozen in time until it's time to move it. After your home gets attacked again, your protege and your faithful wolfhound are turned into stone. And this feels a lot like one of those exceptions. I mean, the moment doesn't really resonate all that well because you didn't really spend too much time with either one. You meet the Grim Reaper and he explains what led to the rise of Lord Rouge. Later you fight the obligatory badass soldier chick that was under the mind control of the final boss, and she joins up, but really none of this, it doesn't add any weight to the story. Joe Musashi's basically death incarnate, and the gameplay just exists separate from the narrative. So you play these stages, you get some dialogue, you beat the bosses, you move on. You finally storm Rouge's castle, you fight, and then you finally fight Rouge himself, and then it's over. Without Joe Musashi's feelings to give this story any weight, it kinda just exists. More likely, anyone that picks up this game is going to be taken in by the gorgeous art and amazing combat. They're not going to look twice at the story. And really, this game, it is what it is. To me, it didn't really stop me from finishing the game and enjoying the game. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengence were some of the most fun I had all year. It was doing a great job of scratching that itch for that ninja platforming action I was craving, but then something happened while I was making this video and writing the script. As I was recording footage, Team Cherry, the makers of Hollow Knight, dropped the release date for their sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong. That alone shook the internet because this game everyone had been waiting 7 years for. Of course, I had to stop what I was doing and play this game. Another platformer in a 30-day period, and as I played it, I realized this was a ninja game too. Hollow Knight Silksong is the follow-up of one of the greatest platformers and Metroidvanias of all time. The graphics and animations were drop-dead gorgeous, the story was moody and gripping, the combat can be pretty intense where even normal enemies can end you, and the cost of failure could be losing most of your progress. The platforming is at times so challenging that by the first week gamers were being put out on Reddit posts about whether Silksong was way too difficult in the early hours. After playing Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi, I was ready to play this game because as it turns out, this game is as if you put both of those games together into one masterpiece of a ninja game, with all the strengths of both and the weaknesses of none. Hornet, the protagonist of this game, would absolutely qualify as a ninja in her own right, and her abilities and her look just scream ninja chick, so does her personality. I love this game, it's a work of art. Before I knew it, I was 20 hours deep into this game, but I still had to come and finish the script and this video. I would have included this game as part of the comparison as well, but it would have been far too massive a game, and quite frankly, it deserves its own video, so I'm not gonna go on for too long here about it. Silksong may be the ninja game to end all ninja games. Well, alright, maybe not, but it's damn beautiful, as it's a masterpiece, and I'm sure anyone watching doesn't need me to tell them to go play it. I'm going to tell you to go play it anyway, just in case you don't know to go play this game. I think in the future I may consider making a dedicated video to Silksong because I think it may be one of the best games of this generation. But if you made it this far, thank you for sticking with me. Platformers, Metroidvanias, beat-em-ups, they're all my guilty pleasures, so this video was a lot of fun. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengeance are exactly what I've been itching for, and I recommend that you buy that combo pack and give these devs the support. I'm gonna end it here and probably go back to Silksong and lose myself for the next 50 hours. Remember, if the demons invade your village and you have to stop the Demon King from destroying the world, nobody's watching. Later.